In the wild, vivid beauty is rarely an invitation. It is a warning. Consider this mushroom. It rises from the forest floor like a relic from a fairy tale. Yet a single bite contains enough neurotoxin to silence your heart before you even register the sweetness. The Earth itself is just such a garden. The only difference is that the traps here are measured on a geological scale. We are talking about oceans capable of crushing steel hulls, mountains that reject the human need to breathe. These are not vacation spots. These are impossible places. Regions where the line between survival and oblivion is thinner than a strand of silk. Welcome to the 30 most dangerously beautiful locations on Earth. Places you should never visit alone. Rising from the mist of the Normandy coast, Mont Saint-Michel appears like a stone mirage floating above the horizon. For over 1,000 years, pilgrims have walked across this vast expanse of sand to reach the Abbey gates. It looks peaceful, almost holy, but the bay is a master of deception. Patches of quicksand lie hidden beneath the surface, waiting for a misplaced step. The mixture of fine clay and salt water acts like a liquid trap. The more you fight, the deeper it pulls you in, and while you struggle, the clock is ticking. This bay holds one of the highest tidal ranges on the planet. The ocean does not creep in slowly here. It rushes back with terrifying speed. Victor Hugo described it as moving like a galloping horse. In reality, the water level can rise nearly 15 meters, or 49 feet, transforming the landscape from a dry desert to a deep sea in a matter of hours. To be stuck in the sand when the tide turns is to face a slow, cold inevitability. The beauty of the castle becomes the last thing you see before the water claims the land. If the danger in France lies in the mud, here it hangs in the thin air. The granite peaks of Shanxi province pierce the clouds at over 2,150 meters, or roughly 7,000 feet. Clinging to the sheer vertical face is a path that defies sanity. This is the plank walk. It is not a trail. It is a shelf. Rough wooden boards, grey with age and rot, are bolted directly into the stone. There are no guardrails here, no safety nets to catch a fall. There is only a cold iron chain to grip, and the terrifying expanse of nothingness beneath your boots. Legend says Taoist monks built this route while seeking immortality, yet for the modern traveler, it offers a direct confrontation with mortality. The wood creaks under the weight of a step. The mountain wind howls against the rock face, constantly threatening to peel intruders away from the wall. A moment of dizziness, or a shoe slipping on the damp grain, turns a pilgrimage into a free fall. Deep within the Santiago crater, the Earth has torn itself open. This is one of the rare locations on the planet where a persistent lava lake churns just meters below the rim. The glow paints the night sky in violent shades of crimson and orange. 5 centuries ago, Spanish conquistadors stood on this edge and stared into the molten abyss. Terrified by the sight, they named it La Boca del Infierno, the mouth of hell. They planted a wooden cross at the summit, hoping to keep the devil trapped beneath the rock. But no symbol can tame the geology here. The magma boils at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius or 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. It is not just the heat that kills. The crater acts as a chimney for massive amounts of sulfur dioxide. The gas is invisible and silent, burning the lungs and corroding metal within minutes. Standing here feels less like visiting a mountain and more like staring into the throat of a living beast. From the fire of the crater, the journey shifts to the violent currents of the border between the United States and Canada. Downstream from the majestic falls, the Niagara River makes a sudden, sharp 90-degree turn. The sheer volume of water rushing into this narrow gorge forces it to spin in a massive counterclockwise vortex known as the Niagara whirlpool. It looks like a deep, teal-colored eye, but it functions like a centrifuge. The water here reaches speeds of 48 kilometers or 30 miles per hour, carving a pit nearly 38 meters or 125 feet deep. This is categorized as Class 6 rapids, a designation that essentially means unnavigable and suicidal. Logs that are sucked into this vortex have been known to stay trapped for weeks, ground down to splinters before they are finally released. To fall into this water is to be caught in a liquid grinder where the force of the current is absolute. On the island of Oahu, a jagged ridge slices through the clouds like the spine of a prehistoric beast. Bolted directly onto this knife edge are 3,922 steps. They call it the Stairway to Heaven. Originally constructed by the Navy during World War II to access a secret radio transmitter, the path was never designed for tourism. Today, it stands as a rusting skeleton. The route is illegal, officially closed to the public for decades, yet the forbidden allure continues to pull climbers into the mist. You are climbing a ladder that clings to a vertical face. On either side, the mountain drops away into a green abyss. The metal railings, corroded by years of salt air and rain, shake. But the true threat comes from the Pacific trade winds. Gusts can surge up the valley without warning, hitting the ridge with enough force to destabilize even the most sure-footed climber. It is a walk on a decaying tightrope, suspended in a white void where the ground vanishes and the sky feels uncomfortably close. From the tropical heights of the Pacific, the journey shifts to a silence so deep it freezes the blood. Deep in the Siberian tundra lies the village of Oymyakon, known as the Pole of Cold. Winter here is not a season, it is a permanent assault on biology. Temperatures have been recorded plunging to -71 degrees Celsius or -96 degrees Fahrenheit. The air is so frigid that boiling water thrown upwards does not fall. It explodes instantly into a cloud of ice crystals. Cars are left running 24 hours a day, for an engine turned off is an engine that may never start again. A stalled vehicle on the desolate highways outside the village is often a death sentence. Even the simple act of breathing becomes labor, as the jagged, icy air threatens to freeze the moisture in your lungs with every inhale. On the southern coast of Hawaii's Big Island, the planet performs its most violent act of creation. The Keikschalauia volcano sends rivers of molten rock traveling kilometers from the summit to the sea. When the magma, burning at over 1,000 degrees Celsius or 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, collides with the cool Pacific Ocean, the water boils instantly. It looks like a battle between elements, a mesmerizing display of steam and fire. But that white plume, billowing into the sky, is a deadly trick. Locals call it laze, a blend of lava and haze. This is not harmless water vapor. The chemical reaction creates a toxic cloud of hydrochloric acid laced with microscopic shards of volcanic glass. Standing downwind feels like inhaling broken needles. The land itself is a lie here. The lava builds new shelves of rock called benches that extend out over the water. They look solid, but they rest on shifting sand and loose debris. Without warning, acres of this newly formed earth can collapse into the deep, taking anyone standing on the edge down into the boiling surf. From the boiling surf of the Pacific, the danger shifts to the cold, dark currents off the Western Cape. Between Dyer Island and Geyser Rock lies a narrow channel known simply as Shark Alley. The water here is murky and thick with the scent of the nearby seal colony. This is not a place for swimming, it is a hunting ground. Beneath the waves prowls the densest population of great white sharks on the planet. They attack from the deep shadows below, hitting their prey with such vertical velocity that they breach the surface completely. A 2-ton prehistoric killing machine becoming airborne. To enter these waters is to surrender your status at the top of the food chain. In the open ocean, a human is slow, blind, and hopelessly soft. There are no walls here, no safety glass to separate the observer from the wild. In Shark Alley, the ocean does not simply surround you, it hunts you. Leaving the water behind, the landscape strips itself of all moisture. This is the floor of the world. Badwater Basin sits 86 meters, or 282 feet, below sea level. The valley acts as a natural convection oven, trapping solar heat between steep mountain walls with nowhere to escape. The air here does not just feel hot, it feels heavy. It vibrates with a visible distortion, blurring the horizon in a perpetual heat haze. This furnace holds the record for the highest air temperature ever measured on Earth at 56.7 degrees Celsius, or 134 degrees Fahrenheit. The soil can bake at temperatures nearly double that of the air. Walking here without water is a physiological gamble. The heat evaporates sweat so instantly that the skin remains dry, tricking the body into thinking it is cooling down, while internal organs slowly begin to cook. In this silent, blindingly white expanse, the sun is not a source of life. It is a weight that presses down until there is nothing left to give. Sometimes the greatest threats do not roar, they whisper. They linger in the dust of a city that was once full of life. Pripyat is a clock that stopped in 1986. Nature has won the battle for these streets. Roots crack through the asphalt, trees sprout in the middle of living rooms. It looks like a post-apocalyptic movie set, but the danger here is not staged. It is atomic. It has no color. It has no smell. Radiation is a ghost that haunts the rusted Ferris wheel and the piles of discarded gas masks in abandoned schools. You can stand in a beautiful meadow surrounded by wildflowers while invisible particles collide with your cells. It is a slow invasion. The elephant's foot remains in the dark basement of Reactor 4. A mass of corium so lethal that a few minutes of exposure is fatal. Even decades later, the soil remains a patchwork of safety and hazard. One step into the wrong patch of moss can spike a sensor into a frantic scream. It is a landscape that demands respect, not for what you can see, but for the heavy legacy of a moment when the invisible world broke. Leaving the silent ruins of the atomic age, the landscape shifts to something even more primal. This is Siberia. At the foot of Namibia, the earth has stripped away its green skin to reveal the burning machinery beneath. It looks less like Iceland and more like the surface of Mars. The ground is stained in violent shades of ochre and sulfur yellow. There are no trees here, no birds. Only the hiss of steam vents and the wet, rhythmic gurgle of boiling mud pots. The danger here lies in the crust itself. In places, the solid ground is merely a thin, brittle shell floating over a reservoir of superheated sludge. Step off the marked path, and the earth can simply give way, plunging a boot into clay hot enough to burn through flesh. The air hangs heavy with the stench of sulfur, a constant reminder that this is a planet still in the process of being forged. From the static heat of the north, energy explodes in the South Pacific. Teahupo'o is not a normal wave. It is a freak of hydrodynamics. The ocean does not just roll here, it folds over itself, creating a slab of water so thick and heavy it looks like liquid glass. Surfers call it the heaviest wave in the world, but the true horror lies beneath the beauty. This massive wall of water breaks over a razor-sharp coral reef that sits just inches below the surface. Falling here is not like falling into water. It is like being thrown against a cheese grater by a freight train. One mistake, and the ocean drives you straight into the sharp stone floor. It is a place where paradise has teeth. Rising from the rugged spine of the Karakoram Range, this is the Savage Mountain. Everest might be the highest point on Earth, but K2 is the deadliest obsession. It stands as a near-perfect pyramid of black rock and ice, isolated and geometrically terrifying. Reaching base camp here is not a simple trek. It is an expedition into a world of stone and silence. Unlike its Himalayan neighbor, there are no easy routes up these flanks. Every face is steep. Every step is technical. The weather here is notoriously violent, capable of trapping climbers in hurricane-force winds for days. For a long time, the statistic was grim. For every 4 climbers who reached the summit, 1 died trying. Even standing at the foot of this giant, you can hear the mountain shedding its skin. Rocks the size of cars tumble down the couloirs with the sound of thunder. It does not welcome visitors. It tolerates them briefly before reminding them that in the thin air above 28,000 feet, humans are merely temporary guests. The beaches here blush with a rare shade of pink, creating a soft, romantic horizon that feels almost surreal. But this paradise belongs to a creature that time forgot. The Komodo dragon is the heaviest lizard on Earth, a 3-meter-long armored tank that has ruled these islands for millions of years. Do not let their lethargic movements fool you. These reptiles can sprint faster than the average human in short bursts. But their true power lies in their jaw. For decades, it was believed their mouths were simply filled with septic bacteria. We now know they possess complex venom glands. A single bite delivers a cocktail of toxins that prevents blood clotting and induces shock. Once the venom enters the bloodstream, the dragon will follow the scent of the wound for miles, waiting with prehistoric patience for the inevitable end. Leaving the pink sands behind, we head south into the most violent stretch of water on the planet. The Drake Passage is the gateway to the frozen continent, a chaotic convergence zone where the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans collide without any landmass to break the wind. Currents circulate the globe unimpeded, building into walls of grey water that can tower 15 meters or 50 feet above the deck. Sailors call it the Drake Shake. It feels like being trapped inside a colossal washing machine. Even modern icebreakers pitch and roll at sickening angles here. Gravity seems to lose its consistency as the horizon disappears behind a constant curtain of white foam. Crossing this stretch is the price of admission to Antarctica, a brutal test of stomach and nerve against the unbridled fury of the Southern Ocean. High in the Central American cloud forests, nature hides a jewel that burns. The main crater of Poás volcano holds a lake known as Laguna Caliente. The water glows with a hypnotic iridescent emerald hue, looking calm enough to swim in. But this is a chemical mirage. The vivid color comes from an extreme saturation of minerals in water that is often more corrosive than battery acid. It is one of the most acidic natural bodies of water on Earth. And it is temperamental. Poás is prone to sudden phreatic eruptions. In mere seconds, that peaceful green mirror can shatter, blasting jets of superheated steam, rock, and acidic mud hundreds of feet into the air. It is a breathtaking sight that invites you to look closer until it decided to erupt. Kagari, or Fraser Island, stretches along the Queensland coast like a golden barrier. It holds the title of the world's largest sand island. A place where ancient rainforests defy logic by growing straight out of the dunes. On the eastern beach, the rusting hull of the SS Maheno sits half-buried in the white silica. It serves as a permanent warning that this island keeps what it catches. The ocean here is forbidden territory. Strong rip currents churn the water, while the surf is a highway for tiger sharks and great whites. But the danger follows you onto dry land. This is the domain of the dingo. These are not stray dogs. They are wild apex predators with no fear of humans. They move silently through the scrub, often stalking visitors who stray too far from safety. In this World Heritage Site, the line between a perfect holiday and a fight for survival is as shifting as the sands beneath your feet. From the dry sands of Australia, we plunge into the waterlogged heart of South America. The Pantanal is the world's largest tropical wetland, a sprawling, majestic sponge that absorbs the seasonal floods. During the wet season, it becomes a liquid labyrinth where the boundaries of the land simply dissolve. It looks serene, a vast mirror reflecting the sky, but the water hides a density of life that is unnerving. Jaguars here have adapted to the aquatic world, swimming silently like otters to drag prey from the banks. Yet the true scale of the danger is only revealed when the sun sets. Shine a flashlight across the black water and the surface ignites. Hundreds of glowing orange dots stare back at you. These are the eyes of Yakara caimans. In the darkness, you realize you are never truly alone here. You are surrounded by a glittering constellation of predators, all waiting for a single ripple. This is the mouth of the sea. The Ilulissat Ice Fjord is a factory of frozen giants. The Semek Glacier moves here at a speed of 40 meters, or 130 feet per day, pushing massive sculptures of ancient ice out into the Disco Bay. It is arguably the most beautiful parking lot on Earth. But silence here is a prelude to violence. When these glaciers carve, it sounds like artillery fire cracking the sky. Blocks of ice the size of skyscrapers detach and crash into the dark water. The impact is catastrophic. It displaces millions of tons of water in an instant, sending mini tsunamis racing toward the shore. A boat too close to the spectacle can be flipped like a toy, and a hiker on the coastline can be swept away by a sudden, surging wall of freezing water. The world sheds its coat of ice and burns. Welcome to the Dashti Lut. These towering structures, rising from the sand, look like the ruins of a forgotten empire. They are the Kalutes, massive ridges of sand and salt carved by centuries of relentless wind. But no king ever ruled here. This is the abiotic zone. The surface temperature has been recorded at a staggering 70.7 degrees Celsius, or 159 degrees Fahrenheit. It is heat so intense, it sterilizes the ground, leaving a place where even bacteria struggle to exist. Walking among these silent monoliths at sunset feels like exploring a ghost town on Mars. There is no shade, there is no water, there is only the sound of the wind sharpening the stones. A narrow strait that holds the title for the strongest tidal current on the planet. Every 6 hours, 400 million cubic meters of seawater are forced through a gap just 150 meters wide. The pressure is too immense for the water to flow in a straight line. Instead, it tears itself apart. Massive vortexes open up on the surface. Cavities 10 meters or 33 feet wide that look like drains in the ocean floor. Watching it from the bridge is mesmerizing. Like seeing the sea turn into a galaxy of whirlpools. But on the water, physics takes over. To a small boat caught in the wrong current, the engine becomes irrelevant. The water grabs the hull with the grip of a giant hand, spinning it into the center of a cold, blue centrifuge. Drifting east into the Bay of Bengal, the danger shifts from the forces of nature to the fierce will of humanity. North Sentinel Island rises from the azure water like an emerald jewel, ringed by pristine coral reefs. But the thick canopy hides a boundary that modern civilization is forbidden to cross. This is the home of the Sentinelese, a tribe that has lived in nearly total isolation for perhaps 60,000 years. They are the last uncontacted people of the Paleolithic era. The threat here is not geological, It is a sharp, deliberate rejection of the outside world. Attempts to approach the beach have been met with a hail of arrows and spears. Helicopters checking for damage after the 2004 tsunami were driven back by warriors firing at the rotors. Fishermen who drifted too close in their sleep never returned. To protect both the tribe from modern disease and outsiders from certain death, the Indian government enforces a strict 3-mile exclusion zone. It is a rare patch of the planet where the map is blank, guarded by a society that has chosen to remain a mystery. Before reaching the roof of the world, every climber must first pass through its mouth. The Khumbu Icefall is the most dangerous mile on Mount Everest. It is not a static slope. It is a river of ice falling in slow motion over a steep cliff, moving up to 1 meter or 3 feet every single day. The movement tears the glacier apart, opening massive crevasses that can swallow a team whole. To cross these blue scars, Sherpas lash together aluminum ladders, creating fragile bridges over the abyss. Crossing them requires balancing on metal rungs while wearing steel crampons, staring down into a darkness that seems to have no bottom. But the true terror lies above. Towering blocks of ice known as seracs, some the size of apartment buildings, hang precariously over the route. They do not give warnings. They simply collapse. From the freezing heights of Everest, we drop into the muddy heat of Australia's Northern Territory. This is Cahill's Crossing. It looks like a simple concrete road disappearing into the East Alligator River. But at high tide, this submerged path becomes the most dangerous intersection on Earth. It is not just a road. It is a buffet. As the water pushes in, massive saltwater crocodiles congregate here in numbers seen nowhere else to feast on swarming barramundi. They line the causeway shoulder to shoulder, waiting. Drivers must navigate their vehicles through the murky, rushing water, knowing that a stalled engine leaves them stranded in the middle of a feeding frenzy. It is a daily gamble where the only thing separating a driver from prehistoric jaws is a thin sheet of metal. Ascending to the high Arctic, civilization clings to the edge of the map. This archipelago sits halfway between mainland Norway and the North Pole. Longyearbyen appears to be a normal town with colorful houses and wide streets, but it operates under a strict code of survival. A massive white shape blends into the drift, visible only by the piercing black obsidian of its eyes. It is the boundary where safety ends. Here, humans are the ones living in cages, retreating behind heavy doors and steel walls, while the predators roam free. By law, anyone leaving the town limits must carry a high-powered rifle. This is the domain of the polar bear. They are the masters of this ice. They do not fear human scent. To a hungry male on the tundra, a human is simply slow-moving protein. In this endless white silence, you are constantly being watched by eyes that see you not as a threat, but as food. The name sounds like a storybook ending. Fairy Meadows. Carved into the unstable flank of Nanga Parbat, known as the Killer Mountain, lies a 16-kilometer track of loose gravel. There is no asphalt here. There are no guardrails. The path is barely wide enough for a single jeep to pass. Local drivers navigate this ribbon of death with a terrifying casualness. Their tires often roll just inches from a vertical drop that plunges thousands of feet straight into the valley floor. The sound of pebbles crumbling under the weight of the vehicle is the only soundtrack. One wrong turn of the wheel, one moment of hesitation, and gravity takes over instantly. It is widely considered the most dangerous road on the planet, a place where the view is breathtaking, but looking down is a fatal mistake. Deep in the red labyrinth of Zion National Park, a fin of sandstone rises like a blade against the blue sky. This is Angel's Landing. The name comes from an early explorer who looked up at the isolated summit and declared that only an angel could land on it. Today, thousands of humans try to prove him wrong. The final stretch of the hike is a psychological gauntlet. The trail narrows to a spine of rock, barely the width of a sidewalk. On either side, the cliffs drop nearly 450 meters, or 1,500 feet, straight down to the canyon floor. There are no rails. There is only a single heavy chain bolted into the stone to hold on to. Gripping the cold metal with sweating palms, you are forced to confront the void with every step. It is not just a hike, it is a balancing act where a moment of vertigo can turn a spectacular view into a final one. In the far north of Queensland, the oldest rainforest on Earth spills directly onto the white sands of the Coral Sea. It is a UNESCO heritage site of breathtaking green, but Cape Tribulation lives up to its name. This is where the forest and the ocean shake hands to trap you. In the shade of prehistoric ferns grows the Gympie Gympie. It looks innocent, with broad, heart-shaped leaves, but a single brush against it delivers a neurotoxin so potent it feels like being burned with hot acid and electrocuted at the same time. The pain can last for months. Walking the forest floor is the cassowary, a modern dinosaur with a helmet of bone and a dagger-like claw capable of fatal injury with a single kick. If you flee to the water for safety, the trap snaps shut. The surf is the domain of saltwater crocodiles and box jellyfish, transparent phantoms with venom that can stop a heart in minutes. From the complex biological traps of the Australian bush, the threat simplifies into a singular, slithering nightmare off the coast of São Paulo. Rising from the Atlantic, Ilha da Queimada Grande looks like a pristine emerald, uninhabited, lush, inviting, but the Brazilian Navy forbids anyone from setting foot on these shores. This is the exclusive kingdom of the golden lancehead viper. Trapped by rising sea levels thousands of years ago, these vipers evolved in isolation. With no ground prey, they learned to snatch birds from the sky. To secure a meal before it flies away, their venom became terrifyingly potent, designed to melt flesh and shut down nervous systems almost instantly. But it is the sheer density that freezes the soul. Estimates suggest that in the dense canopy, there can be as many as 5 snakes for every square meter. You are never more than 3 feet away from a lethal strike. It is a writhing landscape where the ground itself seems to move, and looking up offers no safety, for they are coiled in the branches above, watching. Leaving the suffocating density of the jungle, the world opens up into a vast, red emptiness. This is the Northern Territory. It is not just a place. It is a silence that stretches for millions of square miles. The highway runs like a scar across the landscape, a thin strip of asphalt cutting through an ocean of dust. Here, the enemy is not a predator or a poison. It is distance. The horizon seems to retreat with every kilometer. Temperatures soar above 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit, baking the moisture out of the air. A mechanical breakdown here is not an inconvenience. Without water, it is a countdown. In the center of this void rises Uluru, a massive sandstone monolith that glows like a dying coal at sunset. To the Anangu people, it is the sacred beginning of the dream time. To the lone traveler, it stands as a monument to an ancient, indifferent scale. Standing here, surrounded by nothing but red earth and the sound of the wind, the realization is absolute. This land is beautiful in its desolation, but it is a beauty that does not care if you survive. These landscapes stand as ancient monuments to the Earth's raw power. They are not puzzles to be solved or enemies to be conquered, but reminders of a world that is wild and untamed. Witness the beauty, heed the silence, and always walk with respect. The greatest journey is understanding our small place within it.